Hosholoza, Hosholoza, Hosholoza. Do you remember this clip? Do you remember this moment when Gayton Mckenzie commented on the decision to have an ad hoc committee, the Madlanga Commission? On that day, he made it seem like there's something that he knows. He made it seem like he himself is going to bring tea hotter than the tea that Mkwanazi was delivering. Do you remember? Watch.
Mkwanazi is blaming the minister and Kunu. The minister and them are blaming. So let's get to the truth of it. It's just that people must understand it's frustrating when you want action right now and you want things to happen. But this thing is so delicate that I'm telling you, what is going to come out of that? South Africans must be ready. I'm also going to testify at the commission because I know things. If they call me, I'm going. About these guns in the Western Cape that kills our people. This one is not get your popcorn ready. Go and get the popcorn factory ready because this thing, the corruption is going to come out of there. Had every gang boss of every cartel in the world, always when you hear they're being arrested in South Africa, they are here. What are these people doing here?
Unfortunately for us all, that did not materialize. Rather, what we saw was the performance of honorable souls in the ad hoc committee. Some are holy, some have holes. And at times, it seemed like he was actually against General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, against the witnesses who were trying to expose the cartel, expose the infiltration. Sometimes he would actually praise and thank people who seemed to be dubious in terms of the evidence that they presented at the commission. So we didn't see Gayton Mckenzie. We didn't get the tea, the spice. We were all willing to hear everything that Gayton Mckenzie had promised in such a dramatic fashion. But I think maybe he got cold feet after he saw that the commission was not playing games. Did you know, and I will show you a little bit later if you didn't know, that Minister Mckenzie played a small part in a commission about 25 years ago? Small part. Not as a witness, but as somebody who helped collapse a major group of corrupt officials. I'll tell you more about it. We thought when he made the clip that day, he was going to give us something that would expose his specific knowledge of what's happening in the gangs contemporaneously. And yesterday, he kind of responded to some things, but not quite. But we'll get there. Let me greet everybody. Hosholoza, Hosholoza, Hosholoza Guamashu, Hosholoza Kiani, Hosholoza Soweto, Hosholoza Tembisa, Hosholoza Bloemfontein, Witbank, Emalahleni, Ekapa, Hosh Masheroni, Toyando, Kiani, Hosholoza, all around South Africa, around the world. The audience is international. If you're watching from an interesting part of the world or you just want to tell us where you're watching from, tell us in the comment section so that we give you a specific Hosholozment. Let's get into it. Jermaine Prim versus Gayton Mckenzie. Prim versus Mckenzie. It's going down. Now, the challenge for the Patriotic Alliance comes from the fact that Kunene was found at the mansion of Katiso Molefe at a critical time when Katiso Molefe was getting arrested, the second arrest of Katiso Molefe, one of the men who has been identified as playing a major role in the Big Five cartel. That connection at the time when it happened, in the moment which it happened, in the fashion that it happened, led many to have question marks. The explanation that he gave that day was that he was there to do an exclusive interview with Katiso Molefe. To this day, 31st of March, when I was recording this, we have not seen any exclusive interview, full length or otherwise, of Mr. Katiso Molefe. What happened to the interview that was promised? The promised interview. What happened? Do you remember this?
Patriotic Alliance Deputy President Kunene. Now, news reports suggest that Kunene was at the Sandton home of Katiso Molefe when police effected that arrest yesterday. Good afternoon, Mr. Kunene. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So, just given based on the reports that have emerged that you were at the home of Mr. Katiso Molefe when the arrest was effected, is this in fact the case?
Yes, it is true that I was at the house of Mr. Molefe.
Mm-hmm. And what was the nature of the visit? Are you guys perhaps close friends?
No, we are not friends. I think if you look at my online newspaper, it hasn't been that active, and I decided to put together some young people that can then run with it, that are interested in the media space, and to resuscitate it, obviously, and in its own tradition. African News Global has always focused on exclusive stories. So they wanted to do an exclusive story, and Mr. Molefe was a person where there was an opportunity to do a story with him. Remember that he has not spoken publicly since his arrest and whilst he was on bail. And so I facilitated with somebody that I know that knows Mr. Molefe. And Mr. Molefe agreed to do the interview, and the meeting was facilitated.
So you were there essentially as the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, facilitating an interview exclusively?
No, not as editor-in-chief.
Mm-hmm.
I am handing the platform as the owner to these young people because I don't have time for it with the work that I'm doing in the city. And but these matters are very sensitive. So the person that facilitated said, you have to bring the journalist, which I did. He sent me the address, and we followed that address. In fact, he sent me the first address, and then he said, no, don't use this one, use this one. It was just a question of street or road or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we used the address, we got there, we drove in. As we're in the driveway, standing, I don't know if it's the son or one of the boys, came running and saying, the police are kicking the gate. And Mr. Molefe came out and they said, no, open the gate.
So just for clarity, you were yet to enter the premises as well. Is that what you're saying?
No, we're inside the premises.
So you're inside the premises?
In the driveway.
Okay, but there's two of you inside now. It's you and the young journalist you've come to introduce to Mr. Molefe.
No, it's me, the young journalist, and the person that is coming to introduce us to Mr. Molefe.
All right.
The person that has facilitated for the interview to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So before we could even go in the house or sit wherever we're going, the journalist will do an interview. Then the police arrived, rifles, Casper, V-classes, and they then asked who is the owner of the house. Mr. Molefe said, it's me. And then they handcuffed him. And they then wanted our particulars. And they called me to ask me these questions. What am I doing there? And I explained to them. They asked me if I've got the number of Mr. Molefe. They want to see it. I said, I don't have his number.
All right.
By the way, you can take my phone, punch his number, and see if I have it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get here? I got here because this person sent me the address. And I can show you on my phone. I got the address and I came here. I just arrived. When you guys do your drama, I've not even been offered water. So they then asked for my phone. I opened it, and they saw that the message with the address, with the two addresses, came from the gentleman who said, Mtumande, please use this address.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got there.
Mm-hmm. So the person who was facilitating the meeting, what was told to you as the reason for you being part of the meeting? Because you could have sent the journalist nevertheless to do that job, I suppose. That he could have gone alone, or did they need the owner of the newspaper as well to be part of the meeting? I just want clarity again on that one.
It's a question of relationships. The matter is very sensitive. The person has not done interviews, but he was fine to do interview with the publication that I own. But as I said, I am now handing it over to these young people that can then run with it on a daily basis.
Now there have been new developments in the issue. There have been new developments since then. Firstly, an explosive letter was submitted to the ad hoc committee by General Mkhenzie from Jermaine Prim. It was explosive in the nature of the allegations that it made broadly about a large group of people. In the letter, Jermaine Prim also claims that he got certain information as it pertains to Gayton Mckenzie and Kunene, who are going to be the subject of this video, right? He claims he got information that is pertinent to the allegations being considered by the ad hoc committee and also, in fact, by the Madlanga Commission. And those allegations are going to be part of the subject of this video, the response from Gayton Mckenzie. But there's something quite interesting. Since the interview yesterday, Gayton Mckenzie's interview yesterday, I decided, man, I actually bought the book, the 2006 book by Gayton Mckenzie. I bought it this year as all of these things were unfolding to get a better understanding of his story, his personality, his character. Books which were written in people's early public lives can be quite insightful because they don't know that they're going to become Barack Obama, President of America, when they write Dreams from My Father. They have no clue. They are just telling their story as and when it reaches the point at which they thought they should write it. They don't have a full strategy of what's going to happen. So Gayton Mckenzie has definitely become a very influential and prominent individual in South African society. His son, Calvin, can even afford to buy a soccer team for hundreds of millions of rands. He's no longer a motivational speaker. He's now a kingmaker with a party which is rapidly growing in many parts of South Africa. A man who is quite interesting, quite powerful, a minister, and somebody who, when he wrote this book, I don't think anticipated any and all of those things, which makes the book an authentic exchange. So in this book, I actually learned some interesting things about the prison gangs, the numbers gangs, and two other gangs that I didn't know exist because I've heard about the prison gangs a little bit, but I've not heard about these other gangs. So can I read from the book a little bit and then make a small comment? Just a small comment. So I'm going to read about the numbers gangs as he explains them. And if you have the book somewhere in the house, somewhere wherever you're watching, pause the video, come back. I'll be reading mainly from page 97, but I'm not going to start at page 97. I'm actually going to start just a few pages before, and I'm going to start at page 83. So he says at page 83, towards the bottom, there are two types of numbers that matter in prison. One number is the number the prison authorities give you. The other, you give yourself. This is the famous system of the number, unique to South Africa. So he says that as he's discussing, romantic relationships in prison cells. But then he goes on to say the following. Simply put, this is now on page 84. The 26 numbers rob, the 27 numbers stab and kill, the 27s have relationships. And then he says, the big five prison gang, they inform, and the Air Force will bid you farewell as they attempt yet another escape. Gangs organized according to the number system are nationwide. You will find 26 and 28s in any prison you visit, and many still try to use the old structure, ranking, and disciplinary codes. There's an interesting debate that's happening within the gang community, the prison community, about whether or not numbers still have the same significance, authority, structure, how there's been a weakening of the number system. I'm actually cooking a different type of episode looking into some of the discussions more broadly about the gang culture, because it was inevitable at some point that we would start talking about the Cape Town side of the equation, and a lot has been happening on the Cape Town side of the equation and the dealings therein. And there are some stories that you may have forgotten, may not be aware of, that I need to bring back to your attention. It's going to be a big episode that you're going to enjoy. It's coming soon. Look out for it. I'll tell you when it's ready. I won't tell you when. I don't want you to have anxiety, but I'll keep making my regular episodes, and then when that one drops, you'll see it, right? So here's page 97 now, where it's quite interesting, and I'm going to put it up. So if you don't have the book, you can follow on the screen, okay? Many of these men are often also in for a nasty surprise come visiting day. He was talking about visiting day in the previous pages. Instead of seeing a friend, an old lover or family, he can be led into a room with two men from the South African police. He's just been charged with a new crime. Someone was listening with an attentive ear to one of his fabulous stories and has been forward-thinking enough to share the tale with the police. If the information is true, if the guy wasn't simply another windbag mouthing off about a crime he actually saw on TV as a boy, then the informant can receive a generous offering of reward money which he might need to pay his bail. People who inform regularly enough are the big fives, members of the most hated gang in prison. To join the 27s, you are most commonly sent to stab one of them. Big fives can spot admissions to real crimes and smell bull excrement. He doesn't say bull excrement, it's me saying that. It's reasonably easy to trap a big talker. And then in quotes, you must know the Kinshasa gang up in Joburg. That Greg Mafuma is one bad boy. Yeah, he'll say, recognizing a gang that has never existed. Greg, he's like a brother to me. Or more commonly, I'll ask. Wasn't that you who did that big robbery in Maitland Street a few years ago? And I'll mention all the impressive details of a job well done. Yes, he'll say. I can't believe you know that story. I was proud of my guys that day. Of course, it's my robbery we're talking about. We should walk together someday, I'll say, trying to hide a smile. I could learn a lot from you. I'm going to read something again, just in case you missed it. In one of the paragraphs, it seems that Gayton Mckenzie was speaking in first person. I'm not sure if this was a Freudian slip, that he was either, just letting up the game, that he was also using the tactics of the Big Five prison gang, or that he himself was part of the Group 5 prison gang, whatever it's called, Big Fives, or if he was just recounting from another person's version. I don't know. Let me reread. You tell me what you think, right? So he says, or more commonly, I'll ask, wasn't that you who did that big robbery in Maitland Street a few years ago? And I'll mention all the impressive details of a job well done. Yes, he'll say. I can't believe you know that story. I was so proud of my guys that day. Of course, it's my robbery we're talking about. We should work together someday, I'll say, trying to hide a smile. I could learn a lot from you. He's saying that this is how he would ascertain who was telling the truth or who was not telling the truth in information gathering. The question then becomes, what was he gathering the information from? Of course, prisoners gather information for a variety of reasons, to protect themselves, etc., to get to understand the people that are around them in the prison. Later, in his prison time, Gayton Mckenzie worked with somebody known as Mr. Setlai, who was the head of the prison at the Grootvlei prison where he was incarcerated, and they worked together to expose prison corruption. This is actually what ultimately led him to reduce his prison sentence. During that time, he would get certain favors from the head of the prison. For instance, it was determined during the Jali Commission that Mr. Mckenzie would be given access to a phone, right? And this was in one of the footnotes as they pertain to Mr. Setlai and the things that he was found guilty of. He was really persecuted for his trying to expose the prisons and the corruption there. And they were charging him spurious charges. A lot of things happened to Mr. Setlai. He ended up, emerging victorious. And one of the minor findings that they made against him was that he gave Gayton Mckenzie access to a phone. It's a good time now to tell you a little bit about the Jali Commission. In 1998, when Ben Skosana took over as Minister of the Department of Correctional Services, several employees approached him raising allegations of rampant corruption and financial mismanagement. The minister then initiated investigations into these allegations through the Auditor General, which is an independent institution that reports directly to Parliament. The Auditor General report revealed that corruption was actually a serious problem in prisons. The report was presented to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA. During the same period, the Public Service Commission reported to Parliament that the government had effectively lost control of the department. These events necessitated further investigation into prison corruption. In 1999, the Minister of Correctional Services approached the Department of Public Service and Administration to conduct a further inquiry. A management audit of the Department of Correctional Services was then ordered. Ben Skosana and the Minister of the Department of Public Service and Administration then presented the final report of the audit to the President on the 18th of February in the year 2000. The audit revealed more allegations of corruption and mismanagement, prompting further investigation. As a result of these investigations, 51 people were dismissed, 118 were reprimanded, and 33 were criminally convicted. However, the informal nature of the investigations meant that many questions remained unanswered, and this necessitated the establishment of a formal judicial commission of inquiry. In July 2001, 3 years and many investigations later, the Minister of Correctional Services approached President Thabo Mbeki and requested him to appoint a commission of inquiry to investigate allegations of corruption, crime, mismanagement, and intimidation in the Department of Correctional Service. The Jali Commission of Inquiry was appointed on the 8th of August 2001, and it was headed by the judge Thabani Jali. It's funny, right? There is this remix that happens throughout history. History has this way of remixing and repeating. In that Jali Commission, one of the sagas that came out was the Grootwil's saga. This was the prison where Gayton Mckenzie was incarcerated. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Tell me if I am. Grootwil. Is that right? Grootwil. Right? So the Grootwil prison in Free State, it got into the spotlight after 4 inmates did something quite brazen. They sneaked a video camera. Prisons are so porous. I don't know. A lot is happening in prisons. People have cell phones. They have TVs. Gayton Mckenzie had a TV. He says that his TV got full of roaches. His mom bought him another TV. I don't know. This is when he was in the C and D section of the prison before he was found guilty and went to the A and B section. He had a TV. He was chilling. He was living like a boss. He fought with some guy called Veve and beat him up. And there's a lot. But anyway, they got a video camera into the prison, and they were actually able to expose a lot of corruption in the prison. So the video actually was aired by SABC's Special Assignment. It showed shocking scenes of warders drinking with prisoners, juveniles being sold for intimacy to older prisoners, warders smuggling a gun, drugs and alcohol were also being smuggled into prison and was caught on camera. Food was being sold from the warders to the prisoners from the prison kitchen. They were just running a parallel restaurant there, right? Prison inn, if you will. The footage shocked the public, and it angered the officials in government, and it highlighted severe and serious problems of corruption in prison, anti-corruption measures. Gayton Mckenzie was involved in that. Gayton Mckenzie was involved in that. Isn't that something interesting? Just as a historic anecdote, as a part of commission history, if you will. So we'll talk about that a little bit more just now. You'll see where I'm going with it. Just hold on. Just keep it here. So Jermaine Prim now has added more fuel to the fire of the allegations since the letter he wrote was presented to Parliament. Jermaine Prim, in a phone call from prison, people get asked, in a phone call from prison, told ENCA that he assisted the Patriotic Alliance and Gayton Mckenzie, and he was doing all of this while he himself was in prison. He says he met Gayton in 2012, met him again later. They had conversations about the party. He ran a social media campaign. He helped with the by-elections. He invested in the campaign. That's a critical one because it suggests that money from criminal proceeds went into the Patriotic Alliance. He then says, then the Patriotic Alliance started winning. On Spizene, they started winning all over the place because of him. Think about that. And then he also makes allegations about this gentleman called Red Stevens. We're going to talk about Red Stevens a little bit more. But so this is what Jermaine Prim said on ENCA.
If you can just briefly explain to us your interaction and contact with Gayton Mckenzie. When did that begin? And why was that central to your affidavit?
Okay, so I met Gayton through a mutual friend by the name of Mario Francis, also known as. I met him in around 2012. And he started interacting again in 2020 with the death of Nathaniel Julius. Right? Gayton then asked me to assist in the articles. We made a big noise with the death of Nathaniel Julius. It's something that was close to my heart because my kids live like a street away from me. Right?
Yeah.
He then asked me if I could do a social media campaign and get people on the ground to help him win the relief in the by-election. Okay? And so I knew quite a lot of people there. Okay? And then one thing they did the campaign, and then I ran the social media campaign. I also invested quite a bit in the campaign. It's a result, the P18 won the by-election. The very same people I recruited then went on to Eldorado Park, Ward 17 and Ward 18, and they then won those by-elections. And then he owed me quite a bit of money that I invested in the campaign. That it just wasn't forthcoming, right? So this obviously led to the split between the two of us. And also a lot of patriotic alliance members, they tried to have like an armed campaign in Eldorado Park. But it was actually the family members who were the shooters or the killers in Eldorado Park. So I then told him, I said, listen, instead of making a noise at the police station, go take your children and bring them to the police station so they could be arrested. Right? And that's where the major fallout began. And then there was a voice conversation between Juwaria Kaldi and Pastor Kurt van Heerden. 32-minute conversation. So Pastor Kurt then gave the recording to Justin Barnos. Justin Barnos.
This all, sorry, Jermaine, I'm going to interject. This all while you are in prison.
Yes. Look, Gayton sent in like 2 phones.
Yeah, sorry, Gayton Mckenzie sent you 2 cell phones in prison. That's how you had access to cell phones, and you were able to, according to what you're saying, rally up support for the Patriotic Alliance from prison. Okay.
Look, before there was no Patriotic Alliance. It was just that it basically did. There was nothing happening, you know. What then happened was, with the recording, I decided, you know, I'd had enough of his lies and misleading people. And on the recording, to where he talks that he received drug money from Chantal Stevens, who is the daughter of the late Lee Stevens, right?
Minister Mckenzie has actually been asked about some of these allegations also on ENCA. He's responded to them, right? On ENCA, he said he doesn't know him, he's never met him, that, you know, at some point he helped others to get Prim put into CMAX, right? He says, this guy was making threats. I told him to go open a case. How can he be, you know, helping me from prison? You know, I went to sign up his parents. I went there, but I'm ultimately happy he's in CMAX. So he's saying a lot, but also revealing a lot. That leaves you with other questions. Say, hang on, why did you go personally? This is what he's saying.
With Jermaine Prim. Is there any sort of relationship? You apparently participated or influenced the decision to move him to CMAX.
No, I don't have powers to move people to CMAX. What I've done, I've got no relationship with Jermaine Prim. He was threatening women in PA. He was threatening people publicly.
From prison?
From prison. Mm-hmm. Was phoning people. He was just a nuisance. And I then encouraged people, let's go open a case against him. And people went to go and open a case. And they moved him. They must keep him there.
Because of his threats to...
His threats. I can't, as a leader, when you threaten people, you're going to kill them, you phone them, you FaceTime them out of prison. And you say to women, and women come to me. You can't be a leader and be scared of gangsters.
So there's no relationship. He didn't help you garner support in Aldos. That's
how can he help me from prison to garner support?
Well, if he's able to threaten people, surely he has access to support and people in prison.
I only know about. I've never in my life met Prim. Never.
You've never spoken to him.
I've spoken to him.
Okay. And what was the conversation around, if you don't mind?
He said to me, he wants his parents. I must go sign up his parents. I did go.
Sign up his parents?
Yes, to join the PA.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get that calls a lot from jail. The people say, please go sign up my sister. We go. Please go sign up this. So I went. I got no relationship with him. I've never met him in my life. But when he heard of me, he was asking people, hey, I want to meet, give me this guy's number. It was with a funeral there in Eldorado Park. Mm-hmm. One of the funerals, I can't remember which one it was. But I will gladly take the responsibility for him being in CMAX. I'm happy he's there. He must remain in CMAX because what he's done is very wrong.
So because the story is not going away, because Prim did that interview that I showed you earlier, Gayton Mckenzie then felt that he had to go back to the public broadcaster and give an explanation. He did an interview with Oliver Dixon of the South African SABC, South African Broadcasting Company. Yeah? Broadcasting Company. Right? Forgot what SABC stands for a second there. So he went to the South African Broadcasting Company, SABC, to respond as directly as possible to these allegations in his capacity as the leader of the Patriotic Alliance. He didn't go there in his capacity as the minister. You know, we sometimes have this funny thing where people go to certain places in this capacity, not that capacity, so that they distance themselves and the capacity that they are capacitating their capacitations at. So that's something that happened there. He went in his capacity as leader of the Patriotic Alliance to speak to Oliver Dixon of the South African Broadcasting. Where does it keep happening? I want to say service, commission, company. You see, I did it again. Company. This is what he said. Some of the questions you're like, they asked him, by the way, they asked him an explosive question in the middle of the whole thing about his girlfriend. Yo, watch.
I don't know Gayton Molefe. I do not know, what is the one?
Katiso Molefe and Vusi Matlala.
Gayton Matlala, yeah. Katiso Molefe. I don't know those people. I don't know anybody. I've never phoned those people. They've never called me. I've never been to their houses. There's no picture I ever taken with them. I've never had any contact with them. They don't have my numbers. I don't have their numbers.
Just to be clear, the claim that Jermaine makes in his letter and affidavit is that he claims in prison he met Vusi Gayton Matlala, and Vusi told him that Gayton Molefe supplies you and Kenny Kunene with drugs, and that in turn you supplied people in the Western Cape with those drugs, such as Ralph Stanfield and William Red Stevens.
Now, let me just show you. William Red Stevens has been dead for many years. Let's just start there. I was at his funeral many years ago. Secondly, he says I'm a proxy. Anybody that knows me, Gayton Mckenzie, can I be a proxy for anyone? A proxy, me. These are taxi owners.
I don't know, Gayton. Maybe
No,
you
I'm
could
telling
be.
you.
Did you recruit William Red Stevens to work for the PA?
I did. William Red Stevens was the only one. When he died, he was a member of the PA. Rashid Staghi.
Then did William Red Stevens use money that was the proceeds of crime and specifically drug trade to fund the PA?
How can William Stevens fund the PA? Like I'm broke. Like we are broke.
Doesn't matter. I mean, Ramaphosa is rich, but people still fund the ANC nonetheless. This isn't a personal project. It's a political party. Did he at any point...
You talk about gangsters here. You said, did these people... I'm saying to you today, we as PA don't go around and take money from guys. We know crime. We know what is the repercussions of crime. My brother, let me tell you something. I have never taken money from any gangster in this country.
So Red Stevens at no point used his own money to fund or donate to the PA?
Absolutely no point did Red Stevens donate money to the Patriotic Alliance.
Does your girlfriend do business with the state?
With my girlfriend, number one. But the woman
your partner, your romantic partner. Your romantic partner.
She does absolutely no business with the state. Zero business with the state. No business with the state.
Okay.
And that is the easy, something you can prove tonight. If my partner does business with the state, you can pull out something now and say, here's your partner doing business with the state.
Okay. So, I mean, that concludes
our... The answer is...
Yeah.
My partner in my family does not do business with the state.
Look, I don't know what you make of the answers from Minister Mckenzie. I don't know what you thought about the answers there. I do recommend that you do go watch the full episode on the SABC platforms. What I do want to say is that some of the arguments he made were not necessarily slam dunks. Some of them were particularly fallacious. So, for instance, the ad hominem fallacy, which is attacking the person. When you attack a person, you don't actually deal with the argument that they've made. So the arguments that he's a criminal, he's awaiting sentencing for serious crimes, discussing that he was impersonating the former director of the National Director of Public Prosecutions, I think it was Sean Abrams. He was, pretending to be him to try to deal with some cases that I think he was facing or whatever the case was. So Jermaine Prim has a long criminal record of his own. That doesn't necessarily dismiss the allegations that he has raised. It simply points out that he's a dubious character. And Minister Mckenzie now has lived quite a colorful life. And some of the things that he says as it pertains to the honesty and credibility of Jermaine Prim could equally be said about him. Because yes, he did assist in the Jiba Commission inquiry, so to speak, and he did assist in exposing corruption in prison. But prior to that, he also was doing dishonest things, robbing people, stealing from people, behaving in a manner that was actually cancer to society. So there is some irony in him relying on that ad hominem attack to say, don't believe a person of this nature, when he himself at some point has been a person of this nature. Prisoners can lie, prisoners can also tell the truth, and they can sometimes tell the truth if they think it will help them to get out, right? So the other things that he was saying, I don't think disprove the allegations, because suggesting that he can't help you when he's in prison is not necessarily true. We know that prisoners can run sophisticated businesses from inside their cells. We know this because we saw Thabo Bester do the same thing. We know that some prisoners now, we know from your own book, that they work in this big 5 prison gang to reduce their own sentences, and that this is not loved by members of the numbers gang. This is something that actually helps crime enforcement and helps them catch those people who are involved in other gang activities which they may not have been aware of while they're in prison. So if you think about it, the big 5 group, this one here, the big 5 prison group, the most hated in the prison, is actually good for society. It's snitching, but it's good. Snitching is actually not bad from the perspective of civilians. Why should you give gangsters anonymity in perpetuity for the horse curry behavior that they do? Gangsters are dealing drugs, destroying communities. Why should they have this blanket protection from everybody? If you can get out of prison by snitching, snitch. Snitch away, I say. Snitch away. Snitch every day. Snitch till you can't play. That's what I say. But I understand from the prison perspective, the prisoner perspective, from the numbers gang perspective, snitches get stitches. We all understand the dynamic. So, in as much as it's hard for a prisoner to be able to do certain things, certain prisoners have shown they have a capacity to do elaborate things from prison. Prison doesn't stop them. It's possible for someone to fund political events from prison. It's possible for someone to be a social media manager, a strategist from prison, especially someone who has access to 2 phones. If Mr. Prim is part of the big 5 prison gang, then it's very possible that the letter that he presented to the police has some evidentiary value, because this is somebody who's trying to get out of prison. His case is almost the same thing, actually, that Minister Mckenzie did to get himself out of prison and to get his sentence reduced. Of course, Minister Mckenzie did not expose the gangsters. He exposed corrupt prison officials. That makes his conduct a gray area as to whether or not it was snitching. However, on page 97 of his own book here, right, The Choice, 2006, the Gayton Mckenzie story, completely updated and revised, as told to Charles Cilliers, he actually said that he would ask people about certain things to ascertain whether they were lying or not. And he said that in the context of a discussion about the big 5 members of the most hated prison group, page 97 of the book, right here. So, is Mr. Prim not justified to do the same thing that you did? It's just an open-ended question. Is he not rehabilitating himself? The issue of Red Stevens, let's go to that one. It's an interesting one, and one which will possibly come back to be a difficulty for Minister Mckenzie and Mr. Mckenzie, leader of the Patriotic Alliance. Who was Red Stevens? Red Stevens was a general of the 27s gang in prison, and he was the founder of the 27 Street Gang, basically the founder. This move, the founding of a street gang, was something which was disruptive in that the prison gang was historically confined to operate within the prison economy and not outside as enforcers within the prison. According to a report from the Global Initiative on Transnational Organized Crime, Red Stevens initially joined the 26 gang in prison, but then converted to the 27s. Leaders of the gang at the time had earmarked him as a recruit, allegedly for his propensity for violence. According to a member of the 27s who spoke to the people who compiled the report, he said, "In prison, Red Stevens took blood and stabbed his way into the 27s gang, abandoning the 26s. So now he was well versed in both the 26 and 27 foundations. He attained the highest rank, general, in the 27s while in prison, and on his release, ran the 27 street operations in Cape Town. According to the same report, once on the streets, Stevens capitalized on the gang's strength as enforcers to sell protection to other gangs. According to one 27's member, Red was different. He saw how the Gedate policy of the 27s, please help me with the pronunciation, as enforcers within prisons, kept them away from money on the streets, and so he reformatted himself as a standalone 27s gang on the streets and sold his assassins to the highest bidder. It was never done like that before. Through this, according to the report, Stevens' bands of 27's members were able to make money in a way more commonly seen among the 26s and 28 gangs, right? And 28 gangs, they're still active on the streets also in Cape Town. There's a lot of other gangs. We'll discuss that in the full episode on the Cape Town gangs. In a Facebook post from 2021, the daughter of Red Stevens, Chanel Stevens, corroborated the involvement of her father in the party. In 2014, as far back as 2014, she was actually listed 8th on the Patriotic Alliance party list for the 2014 national elections. This suggests that she's been involved in the party for a long period of time, and she is currently a member of parliament for the party. This is what she said on Facebook in 2021. I'll read some of the letter she posted on Facebook on the Patriotic Alliance group where she is the admin. I am Chanel Stevens, and this is my story. I was only 6 months old when my dad was sentenced to prison. By the time he was released, I was 12. I grew up in an area where gangsterism was the norm. I've seen so many uncles die, people I knew being shot and killed, my own brothers and cousins gunned down. So many young people die in Kraaifontein because of this, but I knew at a very young age that I wanted a life different to my kind of norm, not just for me, but for the people around me as well as my community, my friends, and most importantly, my family. One thing I knew, that if I wanted a life like this, I would have to remain in school, and I did just that. Politics. One day, my dad told me he was expecting a visitor. The gentleman arrived. I didn't know who he was, but I saw he was accompanied by bodyguards, so I thought he had to be somebody important. I knew something was up, so I ensured I was within hearing distance to eavesdrop on their conversation. Gayton Mckenzie asked my dad if he could assist by bringing gangsters and ex-gangsters together so that they can vote for the Patriotic Alliance. He explained the plan and the vision of the Patriotic Alliance. I was impressed because for once someone did not look down on people who were considered outcasts. This got me excited and interested. My only hope was that my dad would buy into this vision for our people. I remember my dad saying yes and that he would support the vision. I also remember Gayton saying to my dad, "You and I might not enjoy the fruits of this Patriotic Alliance tree planted by us, but our children surely will." Both my parents worked day and night for the party, recruited people on farms, walked many roads. People had bad things to say about Gayton, also that he would forget my father when he's in power. Our family never stopped. Fast forward. Today, I'm proud knowing that I've been elected as the Patriotic Alliance Proportional Representative Councillor for the city of Cape Town. I'm reaping the fruits. The door was open for me. My job is to make the door wider in order for more people to benefit. I'm very aware and mindful of all the sacrifices that went into me sitting in this council chambers today. I shall never forget. She said that, of course, when she was sitting in the council, and now she is in parliament. Okay? Unfortunately, a few days after this, her dad was shot down and killed. So I think within 3 days of her posting this. So those words that, the dad might not enjoy the fruits of the tree, but the children will, turned out to be quite prescient. So let's talk about the politics. You make of that what you will. Let's talk about the politics. The Patriotic Alliance is a threat. It is a threat and it's a factor. They are a player on the South African political landscape, whether you like them a lot or not. It's a party that could upset many players and become an even bigger kingmaker than they are right now. And they are playing a role in part as being a kingmaker. There's a reason why Gayton Mckenzie has a ministerial position. There's a reason why Kenny Kunene is sitting on the mayoral committee. The wins of the Patriotic Alliance in many colored areas suggest that they could grow much more in the coming elections. It's an election year, don't forget. Everything that's happened and happening now, particularly as it pertains to parties, has something to do with the elections. You can't ignore that. It's a factor. So if the Patriotic Alliance grows further in colored areas, that would be a nightmare scenario for the Democratic Alliance, not only in the Western Cape, but also in Johannesburg. Further growth of the Patriotic Alliance in the national election picture later could also frustrate the people who are hoping to merge the MK party and the ANC, or merge the Democratic Alliance and the ANC in some kind of a coalition agreement. If the ANC stabilizes and the Patriotic Alliance can grow to about 10%, that changes the political dynamics of the country, because now the ANC can operate without MK, who they don't want to operate with, without EFF, also who they may not want to operate with, and without also having to deal with the Democratic Alliance. All right, that will give ANC a lot of new leverage that they currently don't enjoy. And it will also give Gayton Mckenzie a lot of leverage that he currently doesn't have, but has an idea is within his grasp, right? So I think this is part of what is influencing some of the media coverage. If you look at the ENCA coverage, it's been hostile, right? The market-backed media, mainstream market-backed media, favors the GNU combo of the Democratic Alliance and the ANC. They have concerns about the rise of Gayton Mckenzie and the Patriotic Alliance. That's part of it. I can't sit here and act as if that's not part of it. You know, ENCA is owned in part by Rupert, and I don't think he is somebody who wants to back Gayton Mckenzie. And because the biggest threat to the Democratic Alliance on paper in some parts of South Africa is actually the Patriotic Alliance. I think Action SA could also pose a threat, but right now, and they're coming up and they're showing that they're able to build traction as well. But right now, the biggest threat is the Patriotic Alliance. In fact, I think that certain people would prefer that Action SA be the coalition partner as opposed to the DA, as opposed to Patriotic Alliance. This is because people are concerned about Gayton's politics, his background, his honesty, whatever the case may be. I'm not making a judgment call on it. I'm now just telling you what it looks like to me, that there could be people concerned about those things and therefore trying to make sure that they block the road for him. Inasmuch as that is true, that media comment or media analysis, that doesn't take away the rest of what has been said here. Because politics is one thing, but there are genuine reasons to be concerned about, okay, what role did Red Stevens play in your organization, in your come up? And in fact, in the last, since before he passed away, because he passed away in 2021, but between 2012 and 2021, let's say we put Jermaine Prim aside, what role did Red Stevens play? What role do the 27s still play in the areas where you do politics? Are they doing anything to support you? Because if the 27s are basically the inkabis of the prison gangs, that really is scary and worrying. And then we have to then ask, he was asked in that interview, what does he know about gang culture now? And he spoke about people who've died, old gangsters, but gangs have reformulated, reshaped. Some leaders are in prison right now, like Ralph Sanfield is in prison right now. He's now appointed as a leader of the 28s and in prison, but he was leading the 28s in the streets as well. A very powerful man, and Amapungani has done some interesting exposition of his involvement in security cartel capture in Cape Town, which is worth looking at. I think it's quite good reporting on that. So as things stand, the prisons have the prison gangs have reformulated a little bit. The street gangs have reformulated a little bit. There's actually a lot of fighting that's happening that I'll talk about in another episode. But I think people will genuinely be concerned outside of the political issues that I've just commented about the involvement of Minister Mckenzie with these characters, with these people, about the allegations around Kunene, Molefe. I don't know if this is going to go away. Let's meet in the comment section there and talk about it, because we're seeing a lot. A lot is happening. I'll meet you in the comment section. Who should lose?